And I was going to ask you like about do you have like a practice routine? Well, like what would you advise for young musicians? Like how should we, should we practice every day? Should we not practice? I remember, I'll tell you a story once at the conservatorium.
Yep.
I was doing a voice, like a bachelor in jazz voice.
Yep.
And it was so funny. I was kind of always feeling guilty. I was like, man, I'm not practicing enough. Do you know what I mean? I was like, maybe practice an hour a day. But then I was doing a lot of gigs. And I went to my teacher, I'm so sorry, I'm not practicing enough. And she said, Eddie, how many gigs do you do a week? I said, 2 or 3. I mean, that's your practice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like that,
Yeah, they always say it's worth an hour on the stage is worth 10 hours.
10 hours in the studio,
bedroom,
right? Exactly, yeah.
But yeah, I think that's definitely true.
Yeah, because aren't we like athletes in a sense? Do you know what I mean? You really got to look after your body. You got to keep training. Do you know what I mean? Like if we don't practice our scales and stuff, we tend to fall a little bit
I think
back.
so too. But I also think I probably don't practice that rudimental stuff as much anymore. Sure. But I have done a lot of it in the past. Yeah. So I would think the best advice you could give anyone starting out would be don't overdo yourself. It's because people think, it's a monumental thing and I've got to spend 10 hours a day practicing, right? But if you spend one good quality hour of practice a day, and do it regularly, it's like going to the gym. You can't go to the gym for 3 hours once a month. Yeah. You've got to do your 10-minute bloody hit workout.
Yeah, sure.
Every
once a
day.
day. Exactly. You know what I mean?
You do the same with practicing an instrument, and you get results. Slowly, more quickly actually than you think. But but it's that slow and steady rather than try to do it all at once and then not do anything. So I think technique for any instrument, we all have our technique that we have to work on. Guitar particularly is the touch, especially if you're right-handed, it's your right hand, is the touch, whether it's with pick or fingers, that's what creates your tone, because you're in direct sort of contact with the sound source here, unlike a piano, for example. Yeah. And so stringed instruments of any kind, they're really about how your tone comes from how you touch the strings.
Absolutely right.
And
if your nails are a little bit longer, nails are shorter, or type of peak as well.
Yeah, it all makes a difference, and even the action. So I do work a little bit on that, over the years, probably a lot, but not so much now. But it's just getting that touch right with the pick. Like with gypsy guitar, it's really about that downstroke, playing down on the string, and resting, and then the upstroke kind of pulling the string. So even that little. Can really get it to move along, and then rhythm I think is the most important, really, because if you can practice anything that you practice with good rhythm, it doesn't really matter so much, especially in improvised music like jazz or anything that has that improvisation. We don't have to technically play exactly the right notes all the time. Yeah. What we need to do is, whatever we do, is to make it groove.
Totally, absolutely.
And if we can do that, that's the real important part, which is why I got into music, I guess, in the first place, was
what called you was the
drums and the rhythm,
That's
and
then
this type of music, gypsy guitar, gypsy jazz, flamenco, is got this spectacular rhythms to them,
so funny.
and applied to the guitar.
When I did a research project for my master's at uni, and I researched, how can I teach Latin music for students? So what I did, I interviewed, all the Latin, like Cuban, Brazilian, all different Latin music teachers. Yep. And it was so funny. The main challenge that everyone shared the same thing was how to teach rhythm. Because in those cultures, especially like in Brazil and Cuba, it's very subtle. Very like all the nuances.
The syncopation.
The syncopation really need to practice. You really need to know. It takes years to develop. So it's what they found. The hardest thing to teach is rhythm, rhythm, right? So you need to take
because what to play. Everyone can kind of learn what to play out there off the internet now, especially more than what we had when we were growing up. Yeah. Yet how to play it is. That's where you can learn really from the masters. They need to, come and see you play and fix up what you're doing, But the other great thing to do there is record yourself and listen back, because then you hear what's working and what's not working, So I think recording yourself regularly is another great thing for improving what you do, If you play a gig and then you've recorded it, you go home and you're like,
That's really essential.
Don't do that again. I'm not going to do that again. And so you start to filter out the things you don't need in your playing, because a lot, especially with the faster rhythm music, you don't need to do too much, really, Totally. But doing the right thing is, or doing something that just like fits and, flips the song to the next part, that's the trick.
Absolutely.
That's the trick. There you go, we gave you our secret.
So go home and practice that. But wait, let's go back to Spain. I just thought about it, because you bought your beautiful...
I brought a flamenco guitar.
Beautiful flamenco guitar,
So I compose a lot of music for flamenco as well.
I'll grab it for you. Here you go.
Yep,
you can put that one in there.
Put that one there.
Yeah.
And
she's gorgeous.
It's
she's
like
red.
a different beast altogether. So same, I guess the same thing applies to flamenco. It's slightly the difference I think between jazz and flamenco music is structure. Really, and certainly the complexity of the rhythms and the fundamental of the rhythms and stuff. But in a whole in a flamenco show, you would probably find that structure is the thing that holds it all together. So you got this lot of little sequences, and you just kind of learn hundreds and thousands of little sequences.
Wow.
Over time, you build your own.
What about the dancers with their feet? Are they like? It feels to me like they're like percussionists,
Oh, absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
They're like making music with you guys.
Well, they make a lot of sound. They make a lot of sound.
That's
and so it's definitely like a tap dance base, I guess you could call it. But it has that thing that's sort of rooted in the compás, they call it in flamenco, which is the core rhythm of the particular song forms.
Cool.
And then that's the game, really, is we play our sequences and make them groove within the compass.
Beautiful.
And it's change all the time. A lot of the time in a flamenco show, where you have dancers and a singer, we are changing all the time.
So when you say changing, it's like improvisation. So there's a lot of improvisation.
Not really improvisation as such. It's not improvising like in jazz, where you have in jazz you would have a form. That's kind of the same all the time, at least harmonically and lengthwise. And you repeat that, and you might embellish the harmony differently each time through. And then you have a melody that goes over it, and then you come up with, your improvised solos that go over the song. Whereas with flamenco, it's more like sections, pequeñas secuencias in español. So if you have this small sections. Each song has a section. It might have this introduction section, followed by a verse section, followed by a build-up, where the energy builds up really high and then close. And then after that, there might be a very gentle section, that then builds up again into another big section. And then it builds up even bigger, and then you have, so you might be one song, would have many different sections to it. And each section is kind of more or less, if you're going to do one of those songs, say Alegria, for example, you would have all those same sections. Everyone would have them in an Alegria, but they might not always be in the same order.
And
really?
They might,
sure. And so that's, I guess,
so do you guys decide that before? So,
it's usually arranged. The arrangements are usually arranged, but at the same time, the flexibility or the improvisation, if you like, is the fact that when you have a group that knows a lot of sequences together, those little sequences, then someone can throw in a sequence somewhere. But that we all know, and not necessarily that was going to be there, but we all know that we can go there. So if you got to be on the ball, but you can just catch it, and you're like, they're going there. I know what to play because of where they're going. So that's the difference.
Sure. That's
so it does take a little bit more of your brain space in a way to remember.
Of course.
Because it's not just like a form that you just keep repeating and improvising over.
Sure, of course.
The form can be,
the different parts of the form, like
many parts,
B and a C and a D section, an outro, intro.
Could be like 7 or 8 sections to the song. All have names in Spanish. And those sections have to usually happen, if you like, but not necessarily in any one order.
Okay.
So you can make an arrangement of
but
one Alegria that's completely flipped around all of the parts. Start with Silencio. For example. And then go straight into bulería, then come out of there into the letra.
Yeah, but like I was thinking, like when you were saying that, I was like, cool, but does that make it challenging for when you guys are jamming? Like if you get another flamenco player, for example, if you play gypsy jazz or you play
as a common
standard
repertoire,
jazz, common repertoire, common language, you get together, hey, hi, we don't even have to speak the same language, just grab the guitar, and boom, do you know what I mean? And you go. And
there is a lot. There is a lot of that, especially in the classic music by Paco de Lucia and that era. You know, where people may know.
I guess there's the canon of flamenco.
You know?
Yeah, sure.
People may know sections of that. You know, or parts of that. But generally, if you're onto it, you could possibly accompany someone else doing their falsettos.
Yeah, sure.
And then if you have that sense of groove where you can play the groove together. Then you can.
Yeah, okay, cool.
It's like improvising, rather than improvising over a set form, and then just doing whatever you want, you know, within that form.
Yeah.
It's improvising with entire sequences. So I might play one sequence by one guitarist.
Yeah.
The other guy, you know, I've never met. He's probably heard that sequence too.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So he knows how to back me up on it, and then he'll play one, which is from another guitarist. And I've heard that before, so I can back him up, you know.
Yeah, awesome.
Or at least I know more or less harmonically where he's going to go, and as long as I keep the compass, you know, we can make it work.
So can I ask you maybe to share with the guys at home, like what's like who should they listen to in Spanish music, in flamenco? What are you, like your top 3 or top 5 artists that you like?
There are many, as you know, there's just so much out there now, especially in the modern world. But I think probably a good start with flamenco is to go back a little bit, you know, and definitely listen to Paco de Lucia and his era. There's people like Manolo Sanlúcar, Nino Miguel, Serenito. Who else would be that era?
You know the famous
probably
singer?
they're the famous ones. Camaron De La Isla.
Camaron De La Isla. He's a great one. Was he his guitarist Tomatito?
Tomatito, yeah. So Tomatito played, and also the early Camaron was all Paco de Lucia.
Really? Okay, cool. Wow.
All of that stuff is really good to listen to. And if you go back pre there, sort of, 1960s, Tomatito's a little bit later, but 1960s was Paco de Lucia's generation were young and upcoming, you know. And certainly they changed the music into the modern world, you know, that boom of cultural boom around the world in the 60s it was so big, you know, in the US and England and also in Spain. So they definitely experienced it.
He kind of became modern, like, you know, introduced like electric bass to it, you know, like
definitely the fusion of different instruments for sure.
And I heard there was a Brazilian percussionist,
Ruben Dantes.
Exactly.
Great. He was the cajon player.
From Bahia, He created the cajon. It was a Peruvian instrument. It's fascinating.
One of the first, I guess, flamenco groups to use cajon was Paco de Lucia.
That's fantastic.
But you can go back further to people like Sabicas and Nino Ricardo. They were the pre-Paco de Lucia era, who also great guitarists. And the Jerez school as well, Moraito. Moraito is probably more like Paco de Lucia realm, but his uncle was Juan Morao. I can't remember his name, but anyway, the uncle of Moraito was one of the great guitar players of like the 60s and 70s, you know, in the Jerez school of flamenco, you know, and they have this wonderful power and the way they play, you know. So there's a lot of people around, but I think those are probably the main names, you know, that you could certainly. There's a hell of enough there to go through.
A journey for you guys to listen. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's quite deep. You know, I felt that when I was studying flamenco when I first got into it. Yeah. After about 5 years or so, you know, you'd put so much effort into even getting a little way, and it's like walking up to the edge of the abyss. Yeah. And you have to really decide.
Such a rich culture, right?
At that time, do you want to jump into the abyss or do you want to walk away and do something else?
Fantastic.
And I think, any of us who
end up jumping in,
caught the bug, you have to jump in and you just keep going, you know.
And you're now composing your own, you know.
Yeah, I have a lot of music I've composed.
So beautiful. I love it. Could you play one for us?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome, man. That'd be so good.
All right, this one I called Puesta de Sol, which means sunset. It goes.
Ponte del Sol. Gorgeous. Oh my God, I felt like teletransported to, the Moorish in 500 years ago. It's like walking by the Alhambra. That was gorgeous. So, well done, my friends.
Yeah, I think,
beautiful.
You just start to incorporate all the things you've learned over the years and put them into things, so that's probably the only thing you can really do is you take all your inspiration from any style and then you kind of create a style out of that.
Absolutely.
In a way.
Yeah, with your own voice.
That's probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah.
Try to, if you compose, it's great to learn other people's music.
Definitely.
It's really hard to do that actually, because other people are so good,
Yeah, absolutely. It's so hard. I mean,
and that's a good practice, But in the end, I really love composing and playing original music because it's kind of that's your journey, and that sort of says a little bit about who you are, and you can see that influence of all the influence, I guess, of what inspired you. To create something like this.
Exactly.
A lot of the time, you're just sitting there for hours and hours
trying to figure
working on one little tiny bit, and
it's like what Stravinsky said, like it's 90% perspiration, 10% inspiration.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
But do you know Stravinsky? Villa-Lobos, the Brazilian classical composer, which I love. But then I had this quote from Stravinsky. Apparently, they were living during the same time, and Stravinsky said, every time I hear a shit song, it's always Villa-Lobos.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I bet there's a bit of competition, between the Russian and Brazilian.
Yeah.
So
surprises.
Anyway, let's talk about your rock and roll days, because I heard you touring, with mash stacks and.
Oh, we did. That was mostly with
what's his name, Joe Cocker? Is that right?
Yeah, we did do a Joe Cocker tour back in 1993.
Wow, that was a bit fun.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah. It was a big thing in the day, and it's funny. My memory is still in my mind of that is how big and awesome and high tech it was.
Yeah.
And then recently, just last year, the drummer in our band at the time put all these photos up from the tour.
Yeah.
Somehow he got in touch with the photographer that was taking photos.
Yeah.
I was looking at the photos of us all as kids, and thinking, wow, that's amazing. And not only that, but more looking at the setup and where we played and everything, and look at how retro and old it looks, Like 1993, the stage and all the big speakers, this just doesn't happen anymore.
I know, right?
It's all like, but in my mind, the memory
was it like super loud, because right now, what I hear now, like in, like when you play big stages, it's still kind of fairly quiet, you don't need.
It's not that it was loud.
Mash stacks.
No, but it was actually amazing sound. It was probably pretty loud, but it was a really big space. But it was a great experience to experience a large concert stage, with a large PA, because there was like huge side fill. It was like a wall of speakers, and the Marshall amp at the back was on 10, but I couldn't even hear it from the sound coming out of the speaker.
Wow.
But it wasn't that it was loud, because the sound was just so good that it was like you were just this little creature, and every note was bigger than your body coming at you. So it was a great experience to be
good sound,
to be right inside the music, to be on a like a world class sound level, especially in the old days, I guess. What are classed as the old days now. For our generation is that that was the top of the game, I guess, in the time. One of the top stars of the world, and to tour with them was a great experience. Definitely a highlight that I'll never forget. And that was one of the things I'll never forget, was that feeling of being just completely, your whole body is enveloped in every note that you play. That was quite an amazing experience. And it wasn't even loud. It didn't feel like it was loud, and that was the great thing, I think. It didn't feel loud at all.
That's right.
It was just you were this little amoeba inside the sound, like one little cell. You were just one cell, and all these cells were around you.
Yeah, it's magical, right?
It's magical.
So good.
Yeah, very good.
Well, Camaron, just want to say thank you so much for being
Pleasure.
part of this.
It's been great to share a little bit of my story. Yep.
It was super fun.
Yeah.
Should we play one more song?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome.
Should we do a
gypsy one,
guitar?
Beautiful, Get your baby gypsy. Thank you, baby flamenco guitar, for joining us. Nice color, the red. So.
You're going to do a...
Joseph? Camaron.
Thank you, man.
So good,
Thank you, Eddie.
man. Thank you, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for being here. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up.
At Camaron De La Vega.
And of course, follow Camaron De La
Eddie
Vega,
Gazani.
Eddie Gazani. Follow, click the follow button on the bottom, give it a like, and see you soon.
Just follow us.
Thank
We'll be
you.
right behind you.
Nice.